True sports car values are rising, and British sports cars, like the Austin-Healey Sprite behind me, this one in 1966, are becoming more collectible and more pricey. But is it still a used car, classic car bargain? Let's find out. Well, in terms of its styling, this one's smiley-faced, a happy British roadster. This particular car has a bit of boy racer flair. In particular, it's a Shelby Cobra tribute. Note the roll bar and the racing stripes. I think the styling is truly timeless. It's impossible not to smile when you look at it. Very cute, but cool at the same time. Inside, it's simplistic and sporty, very minimalistic. I think the matching two-tone seats really make this car special. The wood shifter is a nice touch too. It's got a classic thin-rimmed steering wheel, equipped of course with the Austin-Healey emblem. The only gauges up front are a speedometer and of course a tachometer. You also get a fuel gauge and an oil and water temperature gauge as well. The other buttons control lights and also the windshield wipers. Of course you get a cigarette lighter too. Here you have the horn and the key, and this one in particular has a cool push button start. There's a couple of extra spots if you want to add a couple things too. Other than that, you get a latch to open the door, also a handle, and of course roll-up windows. This one allows for some nice ventilation too when you tilt it. The rear view mirrors on either fender are very cool. I also like the custom shifter assembly here. You even get a little more space behind the seats. There's a little tray back there. And overall, it's just a classic British sports car interior. Simplistic and really nice looking too, I think. As a bonus, you do also get a decent trunk. Powering my Sprite is the Austin 1098 engine, which produces 59 horsepower and 65 pound-feet of torque. 0 to 60 takes about a half an hour, or in actuality 12.6 seconds, and you should average about 36 miles per gallon. The larger 1275 engine produces 65 horsepower and 72 pound-feet of torque, and 0 to 60 takes around 11 seconds, all while returning 34 miles per gallon. Top speed is about 90 miles per hour. Now, Austin came about in 1952 to produce sports cars. It was a partnership between BMC, British Motor Corporation's Austin division. Of course, they've given us the venerable Mini in classic form, which is still popular today. And of course, the BMW Group owned New Mini. And the Donald Healey Motor Company, a renowned automotive engineering and design firm. Donald Healey was not just a designer, but also a rally racing driver and land speed record holder. He was involved in Nash Healey cars before Austin-Healey, and later with the Jensen Healey sports cars. Its initial design was to replace the Austin 7, which was a popular British sports car of the day, and basically Donald Healey's company got a royalty from BMC to produce it. Its original design concept was that it would fit in a bike shed, hence its sprightly nature. It originally sold for just 669 British pounds. When most people think of the Sprite, they think of the Frog Eye, as the Brits call it, or Bug Eye, as the Yanks call it, version, which was produced from 1958 to 1961. That was the Mark I. It had the 948cc engine, which only made 43 horsepower. The Mark II debuted in 1961 and lasted until 1964. The Mark IIIs, like mine here, came along in 1964 and lasted until 1966. Engine displacement was increased to 1098 cc's. The 1275cc Mark IVs debuted in 1966 and finished off the line, ending production in 1971 with almost 130,000 cars produced. The Sprite ended up being so popular that MG actually produced its sister car, the Midget, and therefore the Sprites and Midgets together are today called Spridgets. Because of that, you get excellent availability for parts these days, both original and aftermarket, and you can easily restore them to their original condition or customize them to your own personal taste. Some people even do engine swaps using Toyota, Mazda, Ford, Rover, or even Chevy engines. The Sprite is so light that it can be super fast with many of these engines. Of course, many purists like to keep it original and go with the 1275 Austin engine. That's the great thing about the Sprite. You can customize it with Weber carbs, paint, and a free flow exhaust like mine here, or go over the top and drop a huge V8 engine in it. Whichever way you go, it shouldn't be very complicated to put together or work on because these cars are very simple in nature, and that's part of the charm. This is where the Austin-Healey Sprite really comes into its own. Nice, twisty country road. Just enjoy the sights and sounds. Breathe in the fresh air. Hear that engine wailing. It's an experience for all the senses. There's something about a vintage sporting automobile. Capable for its day. Of course, nowadays, nothing special when you compare it to minor vehicles, but it is special. You're connected to the car in a way that you just aren't these days. You can feel everything. And what of you? Now this makes you feel just like you're in England. Very light misty rain falling, beautiful scenery, classic British motoring right here, and classic British weather too. In terms of practicality, it should receive pretty good marks. It gets pretty good fuel economy, even by today's standards, and it's really easy to park because of its size. If you get a good, solid, rust-free California car like this one, well, you can have an excellent daily driver. And you certainly won't have to worry about seeing another one at the stoplight next to you. The driving experience is extremely unique, and not just because you're so low compared to every other vehicle, but people just stick their heads out of cars, they wave when you drive by. It's definitely a car that garners a heck of a lot of attention from older people who you think might have actually owned one at some point, and even young kids and moms in SUVs. It's definitely intimidating since all the SUVs and 18-wheelers on the highway are out there, and you really are so low. You could probably drive under an 18-wheeler in this car. In fact, it's even small compared to a Miata. It's amazing to see it next to a car like that because you realize how truly small the car is. Prices are certainly on an upward trend for Austin-Healey Sprites and other British sports cars. Get a parts car for around $1,000. A really nice example can cost up to $30,000, but you should be able to get a good daily driver and a rust-free car like this one for about $15,000. The Sprite is certainly a great example of a classic British roadster, and it's just a great sports car actually. I think it's definitely a used car bargain, so get one while you can and enjoy open air al fresco motoring like this. I'm Drivin Ivan Katz.